Daniel Harper thought he had everything: a successful career, a beautiful home, and a marriage that seemed unshakable. But one ordinary evening, a single discovery shattered the life he thought he knew. The people he trusted most were hiding a secret so devastating that it would send him down a path filled with deception, unanswered questions, and growing danger. As he quietly searched for the truth, every clue revealed another layer of betrayal. Friends noticed his fear. Family members sensed something was wrong. Yet nobody could have predicted how far the hidden lies would reach. Then, just as Daniel prepared to confront the shocking truth, he suddenly disappeared. What happened next would leave an entire community stunned, launch a complex investigation, and uncover secrets that had been carefully buried for years. Was Daniel about to expose a deception that someone desperately wanted to keep hidden? And could investigators uncover the truth before it was lost forever? Stay with us as we unravel a gripping story of trust, betrayal, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The quiet suburban town of Ashford Ridge, located somewhere in the American Midwest, appeared to be the kind of place where nothing extraordinary ever happened. Tree-lined streets, well-kept lawns, and friendly neighbors created an atmosphere of peace and security. Among the town's respected residents was 38-year-old Daniel Harper, a hard-working construction project manager known for his dedication to his family. Daniel lived in a beautiful home with his wife, Rebecca, whom he had been married to for nearly 12 years. To everyone who knew them, they seemed like the perfect couple. They attended community events together, hosted neighborhood gatherings, and often appeared happy in public. Their relationship looked stable, and few people suspected that behind the polished image was a marriage slowly unraveling. During the previous year, Daniel had begun noticing subtle changes in Rebecca's behavior. At first, the differences seemed insignificant. She became increasingly protective of her phone, frequently stepping into another room whenever she received messages. She also started making unexpected trips, claiming she was meeting friends or handling personal errands. Daniel trusted his wife and initially dismissed his concerns. However, as weeks turned into months, the unusual behavior became more difficult to ignore. Rebecca often appeared distracted during conversations and seemed emotionally distant. Small disagreements that once would have been resolved quickly now turned into tense arguments. Daniel found himself wondering whether stress was affecting their marriage or if something deeper was taking place. Adding to the complexity was Rebecca's close relationship with her brother-in-law, Michael Carter, the husband of her older sister. Michael had been part of family gatherings for years and was considered a trusted relative. He frequently visited the Harper home, attended celebrations, and maintained what appeared to be a friendly relationship with Daniel. Because of this long-standing familiarity, Daniel never imagined that Michael could play any role in the growing tension within his marriage. In fact, Daniel often appreciated Michael's help during family events and regarded him as someone he could rely on. One autumn evening, everything changed. Daniel returned home earlier than expected after a business meeting was cancelled. As he entered the house, he noticed Rebecca speaking quietly on the phone. The moment she saw him, she abruptly ended the conversation. Her reaction seemed unusually nervous. Daniel asked who had called, but Rebecca casually replied that it was a friend discussing weekend plans. Although the explanation sounded ordinary, something about the interaction stayed with him. For the first time, he felt a strong sense that important information was being hidden from him. Over the following weeks, Daniel began paying closer attention to details he had previously overlooked. He noticed that Rebecca often disappeared during family gatherings for extended periods. He observed moments when she and Michael exchanged quick glances before changing the subject whenever others approached. None of these observations proved anything on their own, yet together they formed a pattern that Daniel could not ignore. He found himself caught between suspicion and disbelief. The possibility that two people he trusted might be keeping secrets seemed almost impossible to accept. Determined to understand what was happening, Daniel started documenting unusual events in a private notebook. He recorded dates, conversations, and situations that seemed out of place. His goal was not to accuse anyone, but to make sense of the growing confusion. The more notes he collected, the more concerned he became. Rebecca's unexplained absences often coincided with times when Michael's whereabouts were also unclear. What initially appeared to be coincidences began to look increasingly significant. Despite his concerns, Daniel hoped there was a reasonable explanation. He considered speaking openly with Rebecca, but he feared that raising accusations without evidence could permanently damage their relationship. Instead, he continued observing quietly while trying to maintain normal family life. Friends and neighbors remained unaware of the tension building beneath the surface. To them, the Harpers still looked like a happy couple living an ordinary American dream. Then came the moment that would change the course of everyone's lives. Late one evening, while organizing paperwork in his home office, Daniel discovered a series of messages that appeared on a shared electronic device connected to the household network. What he saw immediately raised alarming questions. The conversations suggested a hidden relationship built on secrecy and deception. Even more troubling was the possibility that the people involved were much closer to him than he had ever imagined. As Daniel stared at the screen, his hands trembled. The evidence before him challenged everything he believed about his marriage, his family, and the people he trusted most. Questions raced through his mind. How long had this been happening? Who else knew? And why had nobody warned him? The answers remained unclear, but one thing was certain. A hidden truth was beginning to emerge, and uncovering it would lead Daniel into a chain of events far more shocking than he could possibly imagine. The discovery left Daniel Harper unable to sleep for days. Every time he closed his eyes, he replayed the messages he had seen and the countless moments from the previous year that suddenly seemed to make sense. What had once appeared to be harmless coincidences now felt like pieces of a much larger puzzle. Yet despite the emotional shock, Daniel resisted acting impulsively. He knew that confronting Rebecca, or Michael without fully understanding the situation, could lead to more confusion than answers. Instead, he decided to remain patient and gather as much information as possible. The decision was difficult because every conversation with his wife now carried an invisible weight. He smiled when expected, attended family dinners, and continued his daily routines, all while carrying questions that seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. Over the following weeks, Daniel became increasingly aware of how carefully certain conversations seemed to be managed around him. During family gatherings, Rebecca and Michael often avoided direct interaction whenever others were watching. Ironically, their attempts to appear normal only made Daniel more suspicious. He noticed subtle changes in body language, brief moments of tension, and conversations that abruptly stopped whenever he entered a room. None of these observations provided definitive answers, but together they painted a picture of people trying very hard to hide something. Daniel found himself living two lives at once: the public life where everything appeared normal, and the private reality where trust was steadily being replaced by uncertainty. As his concerns deepened, Daniel confided in his longtime friend Marcus Reynolds. The two men had known each other since college, and shared a bond built on years of friendship. Marcus listened carefully as Daniel described the unusual behavior, the messages, and the growing feeling that something serious was being concealed. Rather than encouraging rash decisions, Marcus advised patience. He reminded Daniel that assumptions could be dangerous and that facts were essential before making any life-changing choices. Daniel appreciated the advice because it aligned with his own instincts. More than anything, he wanted the truth, whatever that truth might be. Meanwhile, Rebecca's behavior became increasingly unpredictable. Some days she appeared unusually attentive and affectionate, almost as though she were attempting to repair the growing emotional distance in their marriage. Other days she seemed distracted and restless, often checking her phone or finding reasons to leave the house unexpectedly. Daniel found these shifts confusing. If she truly cared about preserving their relationship, why were there still so many unanswered questions? The contradiction only strengthened his determination to uncover what was happening behind the scenes. One evening, Daniel attended a community charity event that Rebecca had claimed she could not attend because of other commitments. While speaking with several acquaintances, he was surprised to learn that nobody seemed aware of the engagement she had described. The information immediately raised concerns. For the first time, Daniel realized that some of the explanations he had accepted over the previous months might not have been accurate. Although he still lacked a complete picture, the inconsistencies continued to accumulate. Every new discovery seemed to confirm that important facts had been deliberately hidden from him. As winter approached, Daniel's investigation became more methodical. He reviewed financial records, schedules, and travel plans, looking for patterns. What he found was troubling. Certain expenses and unexplained activities appeared connected in ways that could not easily be dismissed. While none of the information proved wrongdoing on its own, it suggested that significant decisions were being made without his knowledge. Daniel felt increasingly isolated. The life he thought he understood seemed to be slipping away, replaced by uncertainty and doubt. At the same time, Rebecca and Michael appeared to grow more anxious. Their conversations became shorter whenever Daniel was nearby. Family gatherings felt noticeably strained. Relatives who had once enjoyed relaxed conversations now seemed uncomfortable, as though they sensed tension, but did not understand its source. Daniel began to wonder whether other people had noticed the unusual dynamics. If they had, nobody was saying anything. The emotional burden took a visible toll on him. Friends noticed that he seemed distracted. Co-workers observed that he spent more time alone than usual. Yet Daniel remained focused on finding answers. Deep down, he still hoped there was an explanation that would restore some sense of normalcy. However, each new piece of information pushed that possibility further away. The evidence increasingly suggested that a serious betrayal had been unfolding for much longer than he had realized. Then came a development that changed everything. While organizing documents connected to a future business project, Daniel discovered information that linked several previously unrelated events. The connection was startling. Suddenly, months of confusing behavior, unexplained absences, and secretive communications began to fit together in a way that revealed a far larger deception than he had imagined. The issue was no longer limited to personal relationships. Other important matters appeared to be involved as well. Daniel knew he could no longer ignore what he had uncovered. For the first time, he began preparing to confront the people closest to him and demand answers. He understood that doing so might permanently alter his relationships and expose painful truths. Yet he also recognized that continuing to live in uncertainty was no longer possible. What Daniel did not know was that events were already moving faster than he realized. While he was preparing to reveal what he had learned, others were becoming increasingly concerned about what he might uncover next. Behind closed doors, difficult conversations were taking place. Decisions were being considered. Tensions were rising. And as the pressure mounted, the situation was quietly moving toward a dramatic turning point that would soon draw the attention of investigators and leave an entire community searching for answers. As the weeks passed, Daniel Harper became increasingly determined to confront the difficult questions that had consumed his life. The evidence he had quietly gathered over many months had painted a troubling picture, and he knew that avoiding the truth any longer would only prolong the uncertainty. He carefully organized his notes, records, and observations, planning to have an honest conversation with Rebecca. His goal was not revenge or conflict. More than anything, he wanted clarity. He wanted to understand how the marriage he had spent more than a decade building had reached such a painful crossroads. He hoped that difficult answers might finally bring closure and allow everyone involved to move forward honestly. However, before that conversation could take place, Daniel suddenly stopped communicating with friends, family members, and co-workers. At first, people assumed he had simply taken time away to think about personal matters. Daniel was known for being private during stressful periods, so his temporary silence did not immediately alarm those closest to him. Yet as days passed without contact, concern began to grow. Calls went unanswered. Messages received no reply. Scheduled meetings were missed without explanation. Friends who knew Daniel well found the situation increasingly unusual because he was known for his reliability and strong sense of responsibility. Marcus Reynolds, Daniel's longtime friend, became particularly concerned. Having recently spoken with Daniel about his growing suspicions and plans to seek answers, Marcus knew that something felt wrong. He reached out repeatedly, but received no response. Eventually, he contacted several relatives and discovered that nobody had heard from Daniel for an extended period. The realization transformed concern into genuine worry. Family members began making inquiries, hoping there was a simple explanation for his disappearance. As concern spread, local investigators were notified and began reviewing Daniel's recent activities. They started by reconstructing his final known movements, speaking with co-workers, neighbors, relatives, and acquaintances. Investigators quickly learned that Daniel had been experiencing significant personal difficulties in the months leading up to his disappearance. Numerous interviews revealed a pattern of tension, secrecy, and strained relationships. Although these circumstances did not immediately explain what had happened, they provided important context for the investigation. Detectives carefully examined financial records, communication logs, and witness statements. As information accumulated, investigators noticed several inconsistencies in the accounts provided by individuals connected to Daniel. Certain timelines failed to align with independently verified information. Some explanations appeared incomplete. Others raised additional questions rather than providing answers. Experienced investigators recognized that such discrepancies often become important pieces of larger investigations. Rather than jumping to conclusions, they continued gathering facts methodically. The case soon attracted widespread attention throughout the community. Residents of Ashford Ridge struggled to understand how a respected local resident could seemingly vanish without explanation. Conversations in coffee shops, workplaces, and neighborhood gatherings frequently centered on the mystery. Many people remembered Daniel as hardworking, dependable, and deeply committed to his family. The uncertainty surrounding his disappearance left friends and neighbors searching for answers. As investigators continued their work, new evidence gradually emerged. Each discovery helped clarify events leading up to Daniel's disappearance. Detectives spent months reviewing records, conducting interviews, and comparing witness accounts. The process was painstaking and often frustrating, but experienced investigators understood that complex cases require patience. Small details that initially appeared insignificant sometimes became crucial when combined with other information. Eventually, investigators developed a much clearer understanding of the relationships at the center of the case. Evidence revealed a pattern of deception that had remained hidden for a considerable period of time. The investigation uncovered secrets, concealed communications, and decisions that had contributed to the growing conflict surrounding Daniel's life. What initially appeared to be a simple missing person case evolved into a far more complicated investigation involving betrayal, broken trust, and concealed motives. The findings shocked many people who had followed the case. Friends and family struggled to reconcile the information revealed during the investigation with the individuals they thought they knew. The emotional impact extended far beyond those directly involved. Community members who had once viewed the situation as a private family matter now recognized the devastating consequences that prolonged deception and dishonesty can create. As legal proceedings moved forward, investigators presented the evidence they had carefully assembled. Witness testimony, documented records, and numerous investigative findings helped establish a comprehensive understanding of what had occurred. The process was lengthy, but it demonstrated the importance of persistence, professionalism, and attention to detail. Every fact had to be examined carefully to ensure that conclusions were supported by evidence rather than speculation. For Daniel's family, the proceedings brought a mixture of emotions. Nothing could erase the pain of losing a loved one or restore the years that had been overshadowed by uncertainty. However, learning the truth provided a measure of closure that had long seemed impossible. Family members expressed gratitude to the investigators, who remained committed to uncovering the facts despite numerous challenges throughout the case. In the years that followed, the story became a powerful reminder of how hidden secrets can gradually affect relationships, families, and entire communities. People who learned about the case often focused not only on the investigation itself, but also on the warning signs that had appeared long before the situation reached its tragic conclusion. Discussions frequently centered on the importance of honesty, communication, accountability, and seeking help when relationships begin to deteriorate. Although Daniel's story ended in a way nobody would have wanted, his family chose to honor his memory by focusing on the values he had represented throughout his life: hard work, integrity, loyalty, and dedication to those he loved. Friends remembered him not for the circumstances surrounding the investigation, but for the positive impact he had made on the people around him. Over time, the case became less about mystery and more about the enduring importance of truth. The investigation ultimately demonstrated that while deception can remain hidden for a period of time, facts have a way of emerging through careful examination and persistence. For the community of Ashford Ridge, the lessons of the case would not be forgotten. The event served as a reminder that trust is one of the most valuable parts of any relationship, and that honesty remains essential to preserving it. In the end, the search for answers brought the truth into the light, allowing those left behind to begin the difficult process of healing and moving forward.